Good evening, everybody. I call this public meeting to order. I would like to recognize and appreciate that we're holding this hearing within the traditional territories of the Shishot and Hoopachesset First Nations. My name is Fred Boyko, and I'm the director for the Beaufort electoral area. I would like to introduce you to the ACRD planning staff: Mike Urg, General Manager of Planning Development; in the middle, Alex Dwyer, Planning Manager; and at the end, Amy Anaka, Planner; and in the back room there, Kathy, Planning Assistant. This meeting is being held in the ACRD boardroom and electronically by Zoom, and there are some people watching tonight. It is being recorded and is live streamed on the ACRD website. Would staff please provide direction and instruction on how to participate in this meeting?
Happy to, thank you. And first off, thank you everybody for participating, for coming out here tonight. We have a mix of participants online as well as in the boardroom. If you are watching the live stream on the website right now and wish to join the meeting, the details on how to connect are available in the Zoom meeting invite document link on the public hearing website. We want to just quickly start off by highlighting some of the tools in Zoom as well as in this room that will help you participate. So if you are participating online, you have the option to turn on or off your video and mute or unmute your audio. So others can see you and hear you. We just ask that you keep your audio muted at all times unless you're going to speak in order to reduce background noise. There will be an opportunity to speak after staff introduce the OCP amendment bylaw and summarize the agency and First Nations referrals. For those of you participating in person here in the boardroom, we ask that you use our microphone system before speaking by pressing the silver button here at either the table or at the podium. So when you're ready to speak and you're called upon, we'd ask that you state your name and your address and you hit the button, and the camera will focus on you and everybody on Zoom will be able to hear. When the chair calls upon any members of the public to provide their comments on the bylaw, we ask that you either put your hand up or indicate that you'd like to speak. Once you've been recognized by the chair, again, we ask that you state your name and address on Zoom or in person here, and then proceed with your comments or questions. If you are online, you will unmute yourself. And again, if you're in person, you'll either use the podium or one of the microphones at the table. And further, when using Zoom, if you are participating online, there's a chat feature accessed from the controls on your screen. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question at any time as the meeting moves along, please feel free to do so. These comments will be brought forward when the chair asks for public comments, and there will also be a final opportunity prior to the end of the public hearing for anybody to ask any final questions or make any final comments on the OCP amendment bylaw. And I think that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Alex. The subject of this hearing is bylaw P1448. This bylaw is an official community plan amendment to the existing Beaufort official community plan bylaw P1287. If you have any questions or comments about any other unrelated topic, I ask that you contact regional district staff after this hearing has been terminated. Would staff now like to read out the notice of public hearing?
Good evening, everyone. Okay, the notice of public hearing. A public hearing for residents and property owners in electoral area B, Beaufort, has been scheduled to consider bylaw P1448. Hearing details. Thursday, February 9th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Public hearing for bylaw P1448, Beaufort Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw. Electronic, call-in, or in-person attendance. A public hearing for residents and property owners within electoral area B, Beaufort, will be held to consider bylaw P1448. This bylaw is an official community plan amendment to the existing Beaufort OCP bylaw P1287. As part of the zoning bylaw review project, amendments are being considered to the 6 ACRD electoral area OCPs to align OCP policies and objectives with the proposed updated zoning bylaw. Available online at www.acrd.bc.ca/zoning bylaw review or ZB review. The public hearing will be held by the director for electoral area B, the alternate director, or the chairperson of the regional district. The board resolution making this delegation, bylaw P1448, and all relevant background documents are available for review in the ACRD office or online at www.acrd.bc.ca/events 2023/9/2 and 2023. This public hearing will be recorded and live streamed on the ACRD website. Planning staff are available to answer questions in person, through email, or by phone during normal office hours, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday from January 25th, 2023 to February 9th, 2023, excluding statutory holidays. Anyone who feels their interest in property will be affected by the proposed bylaw will be afforded a reasonable opportunity to be heard. If you wish to participate in the public hearing in person, electronically, or by phone, full instructions to do so are available online at www.acrd.bc.ca/events/9-2-2023, or can be provided by contacting planning staff by email at planning@acrd.bc.ca or by phone at 250-720-2700. Written correspondence can be submitted to the ACRD by one of the following methods: hard copy delivered to the ACRD office in person or by mail, email sent to planning@acrd.bc.ca, fax sent to 250-723-1327. Fax or email or fax correspondence will only be considered received if receipt confirmation is provided by ACRD staff. Written submissions provided in advance of the public hearing must be received by the ACRD no earlier than 8 a.m. on January 25th, 2023, and no later than 4 p.m. on February 9th, 2023, to ensure their inclusion in the public record. Correspondence submitted ahead of the public hearing outside the parameters will not be included. Regional District of Alberta Clayoquot Planning Department, 3008 Fifth Avenue, Port Alberni, phone number 250-720-2700. Fax 250-723-1327, and again, email planning@acrd.bc.ca.
Thank you, Amy. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive input, written and verbal, from any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the bylaw. The Board of Directors will receive full minutes of this hearing before voting on the bylaw. The staff are taking minutes to summarize the issues raised. Please speak clearly to ensure accuracy. Would staff please introduce the proposal?
Okay, back to me. Thank you. As you heard, bylaw P1448 is an official community plan amendment to the existing Beaufort OCP bylaw P1287, which was originally adopted in 2012. The OCP amendment bylaw generally includes updates to align OCP policies and objectives with the draft updated zoning bylaw that we've prepared. As part of the zoning bylaw review project, all 6 of the electoral area OCPs in Banfield, Long Beach, and the 4 in the Alberni Valley are being amended to align policies with that draft zoning bylaw. First and foremost, it is important to note and to highlight that the comprehensive rewrite of the ACRD zoning bylaw is not being considered as part of this public hearing, and that the zoning bylaw remains in draft form. Any changes or updates to that updated zoning bylaw would still be considered, and staff are actively looking to engage with the public on that bylaw, and as well as with referral agencies, with First Nations and board members on refining that draft before we finalize a copy to be considered by the board. The most recent draft available was published in October 2022 and can be found on the ACRD zoning bylaw review webpage we noted before. Staff anticipate that the updated zoning bylaw will be considered by the board a first time in the second quarter of 2023. Now, this public hearing dealing with the OCP amendment bylaw P1448 was given the bylaw was given first reading by the board on April 13th, 2022. The memorandum that was considered by the board during that meeting and a copy of the bylaw with first reading are available online on the ACRD website if you're participating online, and hard copies are available at the back of the room in person here in the boardroom. The bylaw provides a line-by-line list of the amendments within bylaw P1448, a consolidated version of the Beaufort OCP text incorporating the proposed amendments, and the updated land use designation and development permit area maps are also available online on the website and in person here in the boardroom. The maps are on the back wall, and the copies of the bylaws are at the back. So I want to quickly highlight the amendments that we have to the Beaufort OCP that are included as part of this bylaw. We've introduced a new small lot rural use land use designation that has been applied to the existing small lot acreage lands we have out there in the Meshers Road area, the Pates Road area, and the west side of Land Road, that will align with the minimum lot size in the 0.8 hectare or 2 acre minimum in the rural 1 or RU1 zoning. This new land use designation will align with the current small holdings A1 zone that exists on these lots already and will not have any impact on the land use on those existing lots. So as the updated zoning must comply with the OCP, this new land use designation was introduced to align those the current and the proposed zoning. Another aspect that's included within the bylaw is reducing the minimum lot area from 1 hectare or 2.5 acres to 0.4 hectare or 1 acre for an accessory dwelling unit in the rural use designation, as well as the new small lot rural use designation. This will allow for greater flexibility in supporting secondary homes and smaller accessory dwelling units on lots with a minimum lot size of 1 acre, and also aligns with an update in the last year to the Agricultural Land Commission regulations that permit secondary residences on land in the ALR. We've also worked to standardize wording across all 6 of the OCPs where appropriate. The specific policy wording and minimum lot sizes in the updated zoning bylaw that will apply to the entire ACRD area must comply with these policies provided in each of the 6 OCPs throughout the region. So we've worked to coordinate that and align that where we can. We've updated the Local Government Act references as the Local Government Act was comprehensively updated since the adoption of the OCP, and a lot of the applicable sections and the references to those sections have changed. This is an important one for Beaufort especially, but we've updated the Agricultural Land Commission references that better align with the current provincial regulations reflected in the draft zoning bylaw that would allow for new opportunities such as secondary residences in the ALR, as well as agritourism accommodation and gathering for an event in the ALR as well. We've included a statement in the OCP about the consideration of housing needs reports in the area OCPs. As a point of reference, the ACRD received the Beaufort Housing Needs Report in 2021. We've worked to revise the wording in the definitions again to align with the updated definitions in the zoning bylaw. We've revised the flood construction level guidelines with updated guidelines in the natural hazard development permit area specifically to better align with the wording we have in the zoning bylaw. And finally, we've updated and replaced MAP 2 land use designations and MAP 3 development permit areas utilizing our new GIS mapping database tools with a new map format, as you can see on the wall and available online, with improved labeling and data source tracking to help improve readability of those maps. And I'm going to quickly pass it over to Amy, who's going to run us through the agency referrals, and then we'll pass it back. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. As he mentioned, I will spend a few minutes just highlighting the referral responses received from a number of agencies and First Nations. So a copy of those responses received, as well as a summary table of the responses, is available for public review on the ACRD website, as well as the big package at the back of the room there in the boardroom. And this summary package will form part of the public hearing report, which will be considered by the board. So there were a total of 22 agency and First Nation responses received. Agency responses received either noted they were in support of the bylaw, subject to the reasons outlined in the responses, that their interests were unaffected, or that they had no concerns, comments, or objections. And comments received from referral agencies relating specifically to the Beaufort OCP amendment bylaw generally provided comments about all 4 of the Alberta Valley OCPs together. So for example, comments from the Agricultural Land Commission and the Ministry of Agriculture and Food were largely focused on ensuring consistency between the bylaw amendments and the purposes of that provincial agriculture regulations, as well as any decisions of the ALC. So staff are continually engaging with referral agencies and First Nations where some questions have been raised based on the referral comments. And that can be addressed as part of the updated zoning bylaw or as part of longer term comprehensive updates to the area OCP. So we are continually having those conversations. The referral request that was sent out indicated that if no response was received by the referral deadline, it would be assumed that the agency or First Nations interest in this amendment bylaw are unaffected. So no communication was received from 16 of the agencies and First Nations who were sent the referral. I will now speak to the public correspondence. There was no public correspondence received ahead of this public hearing relating to the Beaufort OCP amendment bylaw. And lastly, I'll just highlight some of the public consultation and advertising. So the notice that was read out earlier for this public hearing was advertised in 2 consecutive issues of the Alberni Valley News. First on January 25th, 2023, and February 1st, 2023 was the second one. And this is a requirement of the Local Government Act, as well as the ACRD Development Procedures Bylaw. This includes statements that public hearings are governed by the Act and that public notice shall be issued in accordance with the requirements of this Act. Unlike when there is a rezoning or OC amendment application for a specific property, when an amendment bylaw impacts 10 or more parcels, owned by 10 or more persons, there's no statutory requirement to do a mail out to the with the public hearing notice within the community. And as an opportunity to provide supplementary notice for the public hearing dates associated with the OCP amendment bylaws, the board directed staff to place 1 or more sandwich boards in the community. So 2 sandwich boards advertising for this public hearing date were placed in the Beaufort area to provide that supplementary notice. And lastly, over the course of the zoning bylaw review project, staff have undertaken a number of online and in-person engagement activities, as well as a variety of advertising to gain input on the draft zoning bylaw, as well as those associated amendments to each of the 6 electoral area OCPs at various stages. I think we'll stop there and pass it back to you, Fred.
Thank you, Amy and Alex. We will now hear representatives from members from the public. Please wait until you've been recognized by myself. If you're online, I'm watching everything that's happening there. You can raise your hand and unmute when I ask you, and we can recognize yourself. If you're in the boardroom, please come up to the podium there and then hit the little button, and then the microphone will activate and we can all hear you. Please state your name and address from the beginning when you start talking. We will hear everyone wishing to speak for the first time before allowing second comments. Thank you very much. Does anybody would like to say something? Don't be shy. We're all here to have a welcome conversation. So if you're online, if you would like to say anything, there's a little button in your Zoom thing that says raise your hand, and then I'll recognize you and you can unmute. If you're having any troubles, just unmute or wave your hand or something and I can see you as well. Thank you.
Hi.
Yes, Lisa.
Lisa Aylard. Just a question, was this available to the public as well?
Yes, it is. So it's linked to the website right now on the Beaufort OCP public hearing page, and it's available in person here in the office. It will be included with the minutes that will be considered by the board at the next meeting.
It's lots of information for people to be able to go through that. I didn't realize there was so much information on it as well.
I hear you. Thank you.
I believe the referral responses were just put on the website this afternoon. So it wasn't in the initial thing there, but they'll be available for the board to review when we go to vote on this in the next couple of weeks, whenever it's scheduled.
Could we also get your address, please, Lisa? Thank you.
Address is 8600 Bryson Road.
Does anybody else have any more comments?
Just wanted to make a quick point to those online because I know one of the members showed up late and might have missed the beginning. But if you have any comments you'd like considered today and want to include it in the chat or unmute yourself, please feel free to do so. If you have any questions in general about the zoning bylaw review project or the work that we are doing to line up with the updated zoning bylaw, or any questions or comments about that October 2022 draft that we have on the website, be happy to engage with you outside of this meeting, and we do have some time to update that. And on that note, I do see Diane, so I'll pass it back to you, Chair.
Hi, I don't have any disagreements with the amendments to the bylaws as such. The two areas that interested me the most in the changes, or the two areas of concern to me, are retaining land within the agricultural land reserve. And then the second point was on the ability for those of us with acreage to build accessory buildings, and to make sure that that was not impacted in any way. Can you speak to any impact that you think that there might be in those two areas?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Can we get your address, Diane, as well?
9151 Woolsey Road.
Great, thank you very much. So the first question about the impact on the agricultural land reserve, that is managed and governed by the province through the Agricultural Land Commission. So it's not something that we have that the local government or the ACRE has the ability to change. Now the Beaufort OCP has a number of policies and objectives that intend to maintain the agricultural character of the area and the rural residential character as well. So that will not be impacted by the OCP amendment bylaw, in my opinion. And any application to remove land from the ALR, if that were to occur, would be there would be an opportunity for public input on that, and the board has a chance to consider those applications, and ultimately the Agricultural Land Commission makes the final decision. Now, on the second question about accessory buildings, those are permitted uses in the agricultural zones that are in the Beaufort area. Won't have an impact on that, and the OCP again intends to maintain the agricultural and rural character of the area. The one thing that the OCP will modify is we'll make accessory dwelling units, which are those smaller secondary homes, whether they're secondary suites or carriage homes. Will allow them in the rural use and the small lot rural use designations on a 1 acre minimum lot. And that would reduce from the current 2.5 acre minimum lot.
So I guess I didn't understand then the difference between the ancillary buildings and the accessory buildings as you described them there.
Yeah, so the ancillary buildings and accessory buildings are your detached shops or barns or equipment storage, garages, things like that. What we're talking about is an accessory dwelling unit, which is a secondary dwelling that would have its own kitchen, bedrooms, and living area. And what the OCP would support would be an accessory dwelling unit on those 1 acre lots. Accessory buildings and those detached outbuildings are permitted up to 5% of your lot area in most zones, which is substantial on a larger lot. And in most zones in the Beaufort area, agriculture is a permitted use. So things like barns and livestock pens or buildings and things that relate to farm use would be considered principal use. So.
Okay, so I misunderstood then the definitions of the two. Then I struggle to understand what the materiality of the change to the bylaw is to us in the Beaufort.
So the intent of this bylaw the Beaufort OCP amendment bylaw is to line up the policies and objectives we have in the OCP with the policies and the regulations we have in the updated zoning bylaw. So we're updating each
Okay,
of
to
them.
make it more heterogeneous across the region.
That's one of the goals, yeah.
Okay, all right. So there's nothing different about the Beaufort than anywhere else.
So each of the OCPs are unique. So there are 6 unique official communities in the area, and there are unique policies and objectives in the Beaufort OCP, absolutely. But the intention was to align those policies where appropriate and where we need to comply with the updated zoning bylaw. That's the intent of this amendment bylaw.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Diane. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes, go ahead, Lisa.
I'm just taking a look at what the ALC has talked about here is they're talking about requiring tree vegetative buffer between ALR land and non-ALR development, and that it be specified that the buffer must be located on the non-ALR side of the ALR boundary. Yep, page 2 of 3, according to the Agricultural Land Commission letter.
Yeah, so they've made a comment on the edge planning guide. They have the province has a guide to planning rural and residential development adjacent to ALR lands. What the reference that they're making here is that the buffer that we are suggesting would need to be retained would be on that rural side, on the residential side. So the intent there is to not have any negative impact on agriculture and to deal with those interface issues where we have them. So that when we look at edge planning and as we consider development applications, for example, that we have the ability to look at a buffer, we'll always look at that on the non-ALR side.
Okay. Another thing they make mention of is the riparian development permit area for clearing for farming adjacent to streams. The 15 to 30 meter setbacks outlined in the bylaws may excessively restrict cropping and pasture options for ALR land. So
yeah, I do see that comment there. We have an exemption in the Beaufort OCP currently that's not changing, that exempts farming activities on land within the agricultural land reserve. So things like cropping and land clearing to allow for crops or for livestock are exempted already in the development programs.
So then land that's not ALR, and they've got animals and stuff like that. So are you saying they need to have 15 to 30 meter setbacks depending upon riparian major or minor stream?
Potentially, yeah. So the exemptions specifies farming activities on land within the agricultural land reserve. So where you have land that maybe zoned for agriculture, is zoned for the keeping of animals, but not in the ALR, there may be some development permit requirements for that. We'd have to investigate that further to see if the farm use regulations that the province had would support that. But again, just to be clear, the development permit areas aren't no-go zones. They're not no development zones. They are zones where we support development, provided a qualified environmental professional assesses it and provides recommendations to mitigate any damage there. So if there is a case where somebody needs to build a building that is within a development permit area that they might use for keeping the animals, they're not an ALR, they don't need an exemption, there is a mechanism to do so.
So the other thing too is, so if you've got livestock and fencing, I mean, most people try to utilize as much of a piece of property as they can. And then also, I think I read somewhere about the setback along the road as well. There was it 15 or 30 meter setback from a road?
No, so we don't have any setback like that from a road in the OCP specifically, or the zoning bylaws. Some of the rural zones have a 15-meter front yard setback. So if you were to build a building, you'd have to be set back 15 meters from the road. But other than that, there's no there's no impact on accessory buildings or primary farm buildings, as long as you meet the ministry requirements. They have a minimum 4.5 meter setback as well, if it's a lot that has a road up the side or something like that. But no, the intention there isn't to restrict livestock or livestock buildings substantially from a roadway.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Online or in here? I'll give it another minute or two. Yes, just state your name and address, please. Let me hit the button.
Bill Thompson, 8081 Aquatic Road. This is not my area, but I was thinking that it'd be nice to be able to get a hold of this whole proposal ahead of time so that we can scrutinize it before it comes to our area. Is that possible? Or is it not printed yet? I would like to have it in paper form.
So, yeah, you go ahead, Alex.
Do you mean one specific to your area, or? Yeah. So we did have we held one public hearing for the OCP amendment bylaw in Sprout Lake in December. We will be holding a second one. We'll be holding a second public hearing as well. So we can certainly give you a copy of the one that's been received by the board already, and we'll be submitting another one at the second public hearing.
Yeah, I believe there's a technicality with the first public hearing and the amendment, so it's being redone. And then it will come back to the board. But the board already saw it 3 weeks ago or something like that. Yeah.
We do have a question online that I'd like to bring forward, Brett, if that's okay. And the question and answer from Max Salmon asks, does the term natural boundary, which is to replace high water mark in the DPAs, have, or is it a legal definition? I don't see the term defined in the OCP definitions. So this is one of the changes we proposed in the development permit areas to align the riparian area setbacks from the natural boundary of a creek rather than the high water mark of the creek. The zoning bylaw includes a definition for natural boundary, which means the visible high water mark of any lake, river, stream, or other body of water, where the presence and action of the water are so common and usual and so long continued in all ordinary years as to mark upon the soil of the bed of the lake, river, stream, or other body of water a character distinct from that of the banks thereof in vegetation, as well as in the nature of the soil itself. That is a definition that comes from the province. Essentially means that the natural boundary is the point where the water is continual enough that vegetation will grow. So it's the line where regular vegetation grows along the edge of a creek or at the base of a lake or an ocean. Hopefully that answers your question, Max.
Max, you're unmuted. Did you want to talk or say anything?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, sir.
When you bring up this proposal or this idea about setbacks, and you just talked about high water mark on different lakes or streams, where's the rules or the guidelines to where it backs up onto your property? And my example that I'm talking about is my place right now. I have 80 acres of water, or 80 acres of land underwater because of flooding. It's coming back onto my place. So where's the rules and regulations to protect my land?
So on those, this as it relates to the development permit area, in some areas, because exactly how you described it, Bill, it's difficult to determine where the high water mark was, and staff, we felt it was better practice to define it as natural boundary, and it aligns with what the province does. So that's right now it actually reads as high water. The development permit area is from the high water mark, but again, it was difficult to determine in lots of situations. So we're really it's an improvement as we're seeing it, and something that's easier for everybody that's involved to understand and manage, including the biologists, for example, who would do the assessment.
Yes, Lisa, please go ahead.
Yeah, just to speak of that, there's a lot of farmers who have had problems with flooding for their fields and stuff like that. And then in the past, there used to be dredging the creeks with fisheries, and then that money kind of petered out. And so I think, as Bill's mentioned, there's been some problems with that for the last 2 decades, getting close to 2 decades now.
50 years.
Yeah, 50 years for years, yes. So yeah, I could see that could be an issue for some properties.
Thank you, Lisa.
So while we get the chance, I just want to highlight that the minutes from this public hearing will be considered by the board at their next board meeting on February 22nd. And you'll hear from your director about the process that follows. But following the termination of this public hearing, the director or any member of the board are not able to receive new information. So if you have any questions or comments, either specific to the OCP or to the draft updated zoning bylaw, I encourage you to phone staff. You can find us here either in person or by email at planning@acrd.bc.ca or by phone at 250-720-2700. We're always happy to chat about these things, and we certainly encourage you to come to staff first on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Does anybody else have any comments, questions? So please be advised that members of the board of directors cannot receive new information related to this bylaw between the end of this hearing and making a final decision on the bylaw. If any board member does so, the hearing could be invalidated and would have to be held again. With that in mind, does anybody have any final comments? Please go ahead, Lisa.
I'm just wondering if the local government farm bylaws and farm bylaw standards and regulated communities, the guideline for farm bylaws, has been utilized in developing the update to bylaw.
I could answer that. Not specifically. Those standards apply to the regulated communities on the Lower Mainland. That the Ministry of Agriculture actually has a say in their land use bylaws. I will highlight though that we've had a lot of engagement with both the Agricultural Land Commission staff and the Ministry of Agriculture and Food staff on the pre-referrals. The agency responses are included in the package here, and we've had a lot of communication with them over the course of this project, which has gone on for some time now. And then following this, if the board proceeds with first reading of the updated zoning bylaw, there is another agency referral on that. So we'll give the ministries another chance to comment specifically on the zoning bylaw. So we certainly encourage feedback from ministry staff and some components of their regulations for regulated communities. I'm sure will be included in those referral responses. Thank you.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Claude Lassard, 4868 Valley Road. I'm just making clear on this water thing that Bill brought up. It says, as I read it, revise riparian development permit areas to be measured from the natural boundary of a water course. Like for many months of the year, the water course is in a natural state, but only for a few weeks of the year, the water floods. I have the same thing. I have a creek running through my property, but the majority of the time it's within the banks where, you know, the beaver live in the bush and the natural growth. That's what I'm considering the natural water course, not the few days that it floods all over the place. Is that correct?
Yeah, that generally meets the definition where the vegetation stops. There are high times of the year when you know, those areas will flood, but it's the continuous action of the water that doesn't allow vegetation to grow. So
Okay,
that's exactly
thank you.
right.
That's exactly the way I.
Thank you.
You look like you're deep in thought over there.
Yes, I'd just like to say that just looking at the government website here, it says local government bylaw standards and farm bylaws. The guide for bylaw development in farming areas is available to assist local governments and others advance through an often complex provincial and local government regulatory environment. Regulations which address properties within the LR or are municipally zoned for agriculture can often involve multiple stakeholders with sometimes competing interests. So at the bottom of this website, it does have a guide for bylaw development in farming areas. Thanks.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the ministry does produce a guide for the bylaw development, and they did update that, and we have used components of that in the development of both the OCP regulations and the zoning bylaw regulation, where we you know, the question that you were asking for, I thought you were referring to the regulated communities that in Chilliwack and Abbotsford, and there's a couple others where the Ministry of Agriculture actually has to approve a bylaw before it's considered adopted. But yes, you are correct. We do have the guide for bylaw development in farming areas, and I believe that was updated in 2020. So that has been incorporated in our review.
Anybody else have any comments or questions online or here? So I call for the first time for any further representations on the bylaw. I call for the second time for any further representations on the bylaw. I call for the third and final time for any further representations on this bylaw. Hearing no further comments, I declare this hearing terminated.